I knew it, man. I knew it. It was going to be. It was going to be a night.
Obviously, I know
Sorry?
we're about to. I know we're live now. But
Yeah.
how long has he been with that particular
Did a
lady for?
while. I'm going to say like maybe. I think he met her through working with James Rackus when we were winning.
Yeah, I think I remember the one. Holy crap, that's awesome.
At least like 5 years, right?
Yeah, I remember all the chats about dating with him at the winners' dinners and the after retreat dinners. Yeah, that's amazing to see.
And now I think it's their third attempt at the wedding as well. You know, so many people had to cancel weddings and stuff, and then they finally got it over the line, and then they had to reduce numbers. But Ash, you know, obviously Stefan's Italian, and then Ash, I think she's like Maltese, maybe. And so they're
pretty close.
Yeah, just like big families. So, you know,
wow.
Anyone who's not
straight out, straight out, without a thought.
Who needs this freaking marketer from Sydney? But it's all good. We are live now. So let's introduce ourselves to the people. Hey, welcome back to the Coaches to the Moon podcast, ladies and gentlemen. I'm hyped today. I'm freaking hyped for our first shirtless podcast ever. Should I take my shirt off as well?
Do it, man.
Podcast.
You've worked hard for that body. Show it up.
Stop it. Our first shirtless podcast ever. Ryan and me. It looks like we're naked. It looks like we're naked. But I'm here today.
I'm glad that's what you're thinking. I literally I've worn a shirt 3 times since I've been in Costa Rica for the last almost over 2 months. I brought like 25 shirts as well. I actually bought a bunch right before I left just to make sure I had some like appropriate attire. And then since I've been here, I just literally haven't. And it's a serious thing. It's because my body temperature gets so hot. I just literally can't. If I wear one, I just sweat. It's crazy.
Fair enough. Well, just be you, man. You do you. You do you. And I think
you can do me and take your shirt off.
I've done it. I've just realized in context now it's going to be fine. The clips from this show that are just completely without this intro are going to make no sense to anyone. Why do they not have shirts on?
You can just do a little arrow and just do a little pre-frame.
Well, I'll figure it out.
Put a little story there. Put a full story. Ryan took 25 shirts to Costa Rica, hasn't worn one. I felt like I needed to do what Ryan was doing, so I took my shirt off, hence the shirtless podcast.
Yeah. Well, I only put it on. I wasn't wearing a shirt before the podcast. But this is what I love about you, Ryan. This is Ryan, by the way, everyone. So Ryan's in Costa Rica, and Ryan Madgers is, I think you've been a driving force in the coaching space since you're about 21 years old. You were the coach's coach before that was even a thing. You founded Winning International. You've now created the COR Method and a whole lot of stuff in between. I think you've inspired thousands of young coaches to do their thing and then taught a whole bunch of them how to actually succeed tangibly. So, Ryan, thank you for being on the Shirtless podcast today.
Man, thanks for that intro. That's a really humbling thing to say, brother. And I was thinking as you were saying that, like, wow, the space has changed so much. It's grown so much over the last 7-8 years since I was really in it. It's crazy. I love it. I just love how many people are into coaching.
Yeah, well, I think when you called yourself the coach's coach, a lot of people probably hadn't even heard of the term coaching really outside of a sporting realm or, in high-end business. And you...
Or a bus.
Or a long bus. Yeah, that's true. That is true. But we've been on buses together as well. And I think I've got to firstly, awkwardly thank you as well, put you on the spot and say, if I hadn't met you, I would not be where I am today. I would probably still be working in hospitality. I'd still be doing fine financially, but very seldom seeing my family if I even had one. And so my life and the lives of my family have immensely changed because of what you helped me do back in the day. So thank you, Ryan.
You're so welcome, man. Thanks for saying that. It's really beautiful.
No worries. We've had our times together, though. We have, what have we done? We've gone night snorkeling in Hawaii. We've eaten a whole lot of steak together.
Which is true. Steak tartare.
Followed by steak.
Yeah. Entree, mainstay. We've had some magic moments going around. We've worn very out of place suits together.
Yeah.
Looking the piece.
Yeah, we've done a lot of cool stuff, and yeah, I think you really opened my eyes up to a whole new world of possibility, which was great. So I
Mm,
I wanted to bring you on here today for two reasons. One, because you reached out and invited yourself on. Two,
that's a
because
good reason.
you don't say no to Ryan. When you get a hold of him, you run with it. Take the opportunity. Uh, Two was because I wanted to talk to you about kind of the dichotomy of old Ryan, which was very tangible, high energy, hustle business style Ryan, and now a much softer, more relaxed, more bearded, shirtless Costa Rican Ryan, but still with an incredible life. It's very, very different. And so I think you got a lot of knowledge for a lot of people at both ends of that journey. So for some context, how big did Winnie International get your coaching company?
4 to 5 mil a year revenue. We had 250 clients at one point in the 20K program, 25 staff. So it was solid for a coaching business. Really, really solid. And man, I fucking loved running that business. I just didn't know how to enjoy it on the full level. It's like I was ticking all the boxes of like what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Like I feel like the epitome of it for me was running the retreats around the world because I was doing what I loved, speaking. We had all these amazing clients, like yourself at the time being a client as well. You're an awesome dude. There was such an amazing group of people that were getting attracted to it because they were all coaches. And so they were all into personal development and open-minded and open-hearted and played life full out. And so traveling around the world and running these retreats and making lots of bank, getting to stretch myself, growing, health focus, all the things, ticking all the boxes. But when you guys were on these retreats, I know there was a lot of focus on your businesses as well, but I was like hardcore in the game. I was like hardcore, just constantly focusing on the next point, feeling like I was so far behind where I actually was. So like in Hawaii, for example, what was going through my mind most of the time was like, this is a terrible turnout. I wanted way more people here. We should be like triple further ahead than where we are. How the fuck do we speed this thing up? That's what was literally going through my head, which is so crazy now because I look back at that dude and I'm like, dude, you were fucking crushing it, man. Like, you should be so proud of yourself. And that's what you achieved. It's amazing. And look at all these people. Look at all these people. And I still have people like you gave me these beautiful words as we kicked off this interview. And I have people reach out like that all the time, all old winning clients from Winning International and saying these things and regularly have it still from that particular business, helping coaches get clients. And so, yeah, it really was amazing, but I couldn't see it at the time. And therefore, even though I had created externally this amazing reality, I didn't get to extract all the goodness from it because I didn't know how to let that enjoyment in, let that fulfillment in. And so that's what led me to kind of like, let's just say it's season 2 of life. I'm actually in season 3 at the moment, which is integrating both. If you could just say it's like masculine drive, feminine relaxation, meditation, learning how to feel emotions, learning how to love myself unconditionally. And at the moment, it's like integrating both, which is fun. So at the moment, I'm more in a hustle mode and enjoying that season.
I'm super fucking happy for you, man. That's so funny.
Yeah,
that's so funny that you've moved into that. Those words, because literally one of the things I wanted to ask you about later, but I'll ask you now, was that you used to always talk about seasons in business. There's seasons for taking action and for hustling. Then there's seasons for more flow and kind of reaping what you've sown in the hustle season. And I dare say that, winning days, when we first met, you were all hustle, no flow. And then you went all flow, very little hustle. Now you're in the middle. So do you still believe that the balance of hustle and flow is what we need to grow a business?
There's this beautiful quote, brother, that says the flow happens at the junction point between discipline and surrender. I see that as like masculine, feminine. So like the hustle, or aka the discipline, is really needed all the time in business, no matter what stage you're at. But it's more needed when you're starting out, and because you're creating momentum with something that's got zero energy attached to it. There's no brand. And so if you look at like a Gary Vee, for example, and just look at Wine Library TV and what he created, his focus was so much on like, I got to drive, push, get this thing going. And now you hear him talk, and he's more kind of like, the season switched a little bit for him, where he's a little bit more foot off the accelerator. And he talks about prioritizing happiness above hustle and stuff now. So his message has swung a lot. But yeah, it's definitely more hustle focused in the early days, because you've got to transition from usually having a different income source to being full-time in a new venture. And that's as you know more than anyone probably, that's a very overwhelming emotionally, physically transition period.
Yeah, well, I've been in hustle on and off for years, trying to build that solid income replacement, from my computer from home. And now I'm in it and it's working. And I don't feel like I hustle that hard, but when I look at all the stuff I do in a day, combining the family and fitness and business, and I think I do hustle pretty hard, but it feels easy this time around. And I think so. There's probably a lot of coaches out there who unfortunately have been sold the idea that you can flow from day one and never to push. And I think you used to tell us that, was it 96% of coaching businesses fail?
Something like that. Yeah.
Something like
high
that.
Percentage.
Yeah. Back in the day. Do you think that there is maybe too much passion and not enough tangible business skill in the coaching industry?
I would just say people struggle. Like, everyone's got an edge. And so it's very discernible person to person, because because what's really interesting is, at the moment, yeah, I'm doing well financially, but my focus at the moment is like mastering my craft as a coach. So I'm just doing a shit ton of one-to-one sessions. And this is like 8 years, or it's actually 10 years into the coaching space. The last 2-3 years, I've been focused on my craft as an actual fucking coach. Whereas before I was the coach's coach before I was a coach. So I was like building the business. I was building my entrepreneurial muscle. Now I'm actually putting in the time and the energy to coach. And what most coaches do is, unfortunately, coaches come into coaching broken most of the time. Most coaches that come in, like myself included, the reason I became the coach's coach was because I had quite a challenging upbringing. So I was very fragile and I lacked a lot of confidence, and I got into personal development out of the need for survival, like find some way to survive in the world, know how to interact with people, know how to socialize, know how to show up as a normal fucking human. That's what got me into this space in the first place. And so most people come in quite broken. If you go to like the average coaching certification course, let's say like the Coaching Institute, and you walk in there, you see people. You see a lot of people that are overweight. You see a lot of people that are just lacking confidence. And these are the people that are going to step into coaching. So a big group of people there are lacking a lot of empowerment. That doesn't mean they shouldn't be coaches, but like, I see what makes a good coach up is a mixture of like great coaching skills, embodiment in life, and just a shit ton of practice. So it's like, what does the person need? Do they need to actually build their skills, like build their capacity? Do they move with the capacity and do a certification? Do they need to just fucking practice and like build their capacity by like actually getting miles like on the odometer? Or do they need to actually work on themselves and go, holy shit, I'm actually not really the embodiment of someone living an awesome life. So why would someone want to work with me? And so, yeah, man. Yeah, I think that a big chunk of people that come in initially to the coaching space need to work on the embodiment piece and the practice piece, as opposed to just having the skills. And if they have those things and then they put time into doing their craft, kind of like what Zach Dixon's done, he's like really worked on his craft for ages. That's what he did at Winning. He was just like mastering his craft. He's a great coach. Yeah. So he's practiced heaps, right? And so he's a great example of someone that's like really put in the time to become great. But most coaches come in and unfortunately they get swept into the spell of like the Winning Internationals and the other coaching coaches business programs that sell the 6-figure business and the 7-figure business. And then they skip over doing the hard yards, and which isn't actually hard. It's just more feels messy and feels less like a quantum leap to freedom lifestyle. And it's more like, actually coach. If you want to be a good fucking coach, then coach. Put in 20 hours a week of coaching, or 10 to 20 hours a week for a few years, and you'll definitely be making 300 grand a year. Like, it's,
yeah,
because you'll just be fucking great.
All right, so let's take tangible advice then off that, because that was awesome. Beginner coaches who need to get better at coaching, where do they go and find these 10, 20 hours a week of coaching?
They offer it for free, first and foremost. So it's like, let's say you are doing content on social media, someone likes your post, message them and just be like, yo, I'm putting fucking miles on the odometer. I want to practice. I'd love to coach you for free.
Yeah.
When are you free? And then it's just like, oh yeah, fuck, that sounds great. Do the coaching session. Then say, cool, I'm happy to do 2 for free. And then they do 2. And are you enjoying this? Are you getting value from our sessions? How about we start off at $80 a session, and then do more sessions at $80 with the person, then be like, okay, cool, my rate's gone up a little bit. I'm going to be charging $200 a session, but I'm happy to do it for you for $120. And then it's like, if you do 10 hours a week at $120 a session, I mean, it's $1,200. It's at least you're working full time as a coach now. You can survive, depending on like the old Gary Vee idea of you got to be putting, you stop fucking buying stupid shit that doesn't actually make you happy. If you're following that rule and you're just buying what you need and like still investing money in what you care about, but just not being frivolous, then that should be enough. 10 sessions a week at $120 a session. Yeah.
I pay myself $1,000 a week at the moment. It's very, very easy to live in Australia on $1,000 a week, even with a family of 4.
Yeah.
Not like that. To make $1,200 a week as a beginner coach off of 10 hours of coaching and then maybe 10 more hours of marketing yourself, that is a phenomenal lifestyle. But most people are drawn into, I've got to be making 6 figures. I've got to be making 7 figures. I've got to have the jet and the thousands of followers. But man,
the jet's such a quantum leap from that. From $1,200 a week to like a $20 million jet.
But fuck, you can make $1,200 a week working 50 hours as a laborer, or you could do it in 10 hours doing this really, really awesome practice. And maybe people they've been sold this dream that it's 7 figures is right there for everyone. But
yeah. Coaching is like the best. It's like the easiest, biggest opportunity that's ever existed. Just as a career to do something that mixes fulfillment with like passion and profit. It's just such an epic thing. And it's not like you just stay at $120 a week. You can for the last few years, doing very kind of little, because I literally I was trying to learn. I was recovering from burnout, learning to love myself, studying a shitload of modalities, like just all the fucking modalities, and practicing a shit ton. But I was making a few $100,000 a year, not working much, maybe like 10 hours a month or something like that, doing a few $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
And that was just so easy.
Yeah.
But that was after putting in like lots of yards. And then I'm like going back into it and I'm practicing again. Now I'm like ramping up my income a lot. But if you put in the time and you're making the $1,200 a week for a few years, then you as an asset will never lose those skills. And people are just going to require it. This is why the industry is growing, because it's a cool industry and there's a demand to be in it because it's exciting, but it's also a demand for clientele because the world's changing so much. People's mental health's getting thrown all over the place. Things like sugar, processed foods, social media, just like access to what I call heart closers, like disempowering habits, just are fucking opening up all over the place. So people are just going to need more and more coaching as time goes on. The opportunities in the upwards trend. It's not always going to be like, it'll get to a point where it's an oversaturated coaching market. And people don't need it as much at some point, but it's really on the rise now. It's a fucking great time to be a coach. So it's worth investing in your coaching skills and your experience by putting in the time to just coach. And it's so funny that I'm spending my time doing that right now. Like there's a bunch of shit I know I can easily make 3, 4, 20K sales a week and just make 3 30, like what's that, 60, 80 grand a week just selling business coaching programs. And I'm spending all my time coaching people one-to-one, getting them results, putting in the hours, putting in the time to master my craft as a long-term investment in myself as a coach. And I highly recommend that anyone that's listening to this that's a coach takes that at least as one flavor or one thing to kind of like measure themselves on. Even if you do want to like grow the programs and the courses and stuff, that's awesome. But definitely prioritize getting time in and look back at your coaching sessions as well. Like I record my coaching sessions, look back through them, listen to how you sound, try new things, learn things, implement them. Like go into each session like you're an athlete that's about to like go into some kind of race or performance or sporting event or something, and really show up to be an amazing fucking coach in that session. And you'll find things out, you'll connect dots. Like I've built my own trauma method just on healing the mother and the father wound, just by doing so many sessions and just finding what works. This stuff will just naturally start to come out. Yeah, it's cool shit. It's really such a big opportunity though, right? You're also in a big opportunity with the online marketing. But coaching is very similar to that. It's a massive opportunity.
Yeah, man. And I think some people would think it's oversaturated, but it's only oversaturated in the coaching space where everyone's coaching everyone else. But when I go and look at my friends and family outside of that network, no one's got a coach. No one really knows what it's all about. They still don't really understand my job. And so I think it's like, I hate to use the comparison. It's like freaking crypto. Like there's a pool of people who are all into it, and some people will be, oh, it's too late already. But when you go into the wider world, coaching has got, it's probably hit 2% of the world, and most people have no idea about it. And there is so much business out there, so much opportunity. And to say find 10 people a week out of 20 million in Australia to speak to, it sounds
but that's 10 a week's not, you're not going to go 10 a week in your first week. Like you ramp up that. It might take you 3 months to get to 10 a week. That's okay. Like I just started coaching someone on improving their coaching skills. So it's like training a coach to be a better coach. And I've just said, like, straight off the bat, you just need to do 3 coaching sessions a week for free for 30 minutes a session. You need to record them, watch them back, improve your coaching skills on what we're doing in our sessions. And she's easily found 3 a week, but just that's from scratch. So it's like, if you're from scratch, you can you don't expect yourself to get to 10. Start with like 1 session a week, 2, 3, 4, 5, build it up to 10. It'll happen, but focus on the doing of the sessions without kind of being greedy and skipping ahead. And this is like one thing that it's kind of regrettable. Yeah, it is. Like if I had my time again, I wouldn't be running like Winning International the same way. I'd be focusing probably, I'd be focusing more on quality, or I'd be encouraging the coaches to master their craft more, as opposed. But I was a master of helping them monetize, which is cool. It's still an important factor. So I feel like the monetization can happen quite quickly and easily when you're a fucking master coach.
Well, that was one of the things that went wrong, right? Transparently, it was you grew so fast to 250 clients, and there was a lack of quality in delivery from your team and the delivery from the coaches to their clients, just because it happened too quickly, right? So
it was more our business. It was our target market and our business operations. Was meaning like we were bringing on people that weren't experienced enough. So it wasn't like a really stable base of people. That there was a low quality person that shouldn't really have been thrust into the program. With me setting such big targets for the team, our salespeople were bringing on, like, doing a great job, like from a sales perspective. It's pretty awesome. But there was a big blind spot there for me, in the fact that I was scared of disqualifying myself, because at that point I legitimately saw myself as a massive success. And I was a massive success, and I saw our clients like an older version of myself, our prospects. And so like so many of the people that followed the Ryan Madges page were young entrepreneurs, just like I was when I was like 18, 19 years old. And they just wanted to make it. And I literally bootstrapped from scratch way before I was ready, but still made it into a success. So my paradigm back then was like, we can't disqualify this guy. That's fucking me 3 years ago. We say, sorry, you're not qualified enough. I'm pretty much saying I shouldn't even run this business. So I had this big inner conflict with that. And it was just like this is just how it has to be. I'm not going to disqualify myself. But having my time again, I would have disqualified myself, which is an interesting one.
Yeah, we all would have done things differently.
Yeah.
What's the best thing and what's the worst thing about rapidly scaling a business to that point?
I think the best thing, there's lots of good things about it. The best thing would be someone's capacity, someone's ability to normalize a high capacity of masculine energy. Because for me, it was very normal to do massively courageous things that recently, when I'd been more in my feminine energy of the time off and being more receiving, surrender, etc., some of the shit that I used to do, I couldn't do. Like if it's like, okay, cool, you got to get this, pump this course out. Even when we were working together recently, it's like, hey, can you get this done in time? And it's like, yeah, as a big edge for me. Whereas like what I was getting done for you in time was like 10% of my output when I was in the flow of running Winning International, building Winning International. So it's like I normalized really powerful masculine energy. The con to it for me as a human was that then I was kind of neglecting my inner feminine. And both are really important for someone to feel empowered. I really see it as like, if we go into inner child work, you got an inner child and then you got two inner parents, like an inner mom and an inner dad. The inner dad is like unconditionally protective through taking action, like actually makes things happen. Like you are a dad for your kids. It's like your job is like a really big role is to make sure shit happens. You can't just be like, oh, I love you guys, but sorry, there's no food today. It's like, no, you got to put the food on the table. That's the inner father. The inner mother is that I'm unconditionally loving. The inner father is unconditionally protective. Inner mother, unconditionally loving through nurture. And for me, like my self-nurture was very low. My self-love was very low. It was like just ruthless masculine energy. And that's a stage of development as a young man as well. It's very normal.
Yeah, but you were like 21 years old.
Yeah, it's normal. It's like from a masculine archetypal development perspective, it's called the hero, which is the underdeveloped warrior. It's like the last part of a man to develop or a boy to develop, which is a hero, like 16, 18 years old. We have this energy, it's an underdeveloped warrior energy of I have more skills than I think I do. I'm like arrogant, ignorant, I've got this inflated ego to believe I can do whatever I want, because that's needed as a psychological strategy to separate the boy from the family. So he goes out and forges his own way, even though he's probably going to fail. It's like that's ingrained into us in some, like an archetypal perspective to allow the man to go. So it's normal. But that was a con of growing too fast. Yeah.
Wow. That's probably a thing. You would have learned all this looking back, which is really interesting. You kind of have flipped what most people's journeys will be, I'd imagine. As in,
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, you did the rapid growth and then the slow down and the learning afterwards, which is probably the opposite of what most people will do, but it's put you in a really, really cool place. I'm very happy to see it.
Thanks,
How about talking about where you're at now, right? So I know that you've gone from that point. You went through a big, transformation when you went to Bali and then came back and started wearing lots of white and hugging everyone. And then and then you moved.
Yeah, I was always a hugger.
You were always a hugger. You were always a hugger.
Agreed.
Yeah. I think you look great in all white, man. But
I appreciate that, Al.
Now you've created this this COR method, COR, the derived Latin word for heart. and it's all about courage. So, macro, why is it so important to be courageous?
Yeah, man. Well, yes, courage means heart, honoring the truth of your heart, core. And I see like the reason I created this method, which I'm using for myself, I'm not really even teaching it at the moment, to be honest with you. And I put it on the back burner because I feel like I need some, it's just not the time to be putting it out there, but I'll share it now. So it's like, I spent the last year working on this method to help me calibrate all the different areas of like deep spiritual work, deep emotional inner work, actually wanting to be relevant, hustle in the world, have a great relationship, and just like all the modalities in personal development. How do they fit in together? Because I was getting fucking confused, to be honest with you. I was like listening to my meditation teacher. It's like, you just got to detach and just surrender. And it's like, okay, that's one perspective. And I feel good when I do that. But then it gets to a point where I'm like, hang on a second, what about actually working hard and challenging myself and growing? That also feels relevant. And I did that and I'd feel good, but I'd do that too much and that wouldn't feel right. And then it's like, oh, maybe it's about feeling and releasing emotion. And I do that, and I feel good, and change my belief systems and inner trauma work, and then psychedelics. And then it's like, fucking, how many different things can you do? And it's just, I was getting confused. I didn't know what was the right next thing to do in any moment. And so I was like, I just got to figure out some way to integrate all of this stuff for me to make it easier. So I essentially like had a massive intuitive download essentially of like just ideas essentially popping to me. And I just wrote it all down and I was like, man, it's just head versus heart. You're either in your head or you're either in your heart. And it's like the purpose of life is fulfillment, and fulfillment is the consistent quality of the experience of one's life. What's going to create fulfillment? It's living in the heart. And what creates living in the heart? Well, that's what the COR method helps with, because what's required to be in the heart at any moment is discernible to the context of the situation, meaning that like there's no right answer. There's just a right answer in the moment. So it's like the chicken and the egg of getting some results. It's like, do you take action to get a breakthrough, or do you like do some big, I can't take action until I've done this emotional release or this timeline therapy breakthrough. Only when I've got these beliefs until I remove the blocks, I can't move. Sometimes when you move, you remove the blocks. So it's like, what's needed to return to the heart, to be living in a state of fulfillment from my perspective, is different in every situation. And I think there's one of three things that can be done. Either you do a breakthrough. So you either do some kind of breakthrough to help release. So it could be an emotional block. It could be inner child work. It could be like somatic release work. It could be parts work. It could be NLP breakthrough, just fucking some kind of excavation, exploring to figure out the deeper block, because there's just something there. And it's like, that could be an option. Two other options are masculine or feminine action. That's the three. So it's like, you either, if I'm like feeling stuck and I'm in my head and I want to get back to my heart, I go, okay, what do I need to do? Do I need to take some fucking action, have that difficult conversation? Do I need to plan the podcast and then just fucking launch it? Do I need to pitch a bunch of people and make some sales? Do I need to book the flight to go to that country? Do I need to do some kind of action? Or do I need to enjoy? So it's like, do I execute, do I enjoy, or do I explore? They're essentially the three things: execute, enjoy, or explore. Because if, let's say, for example, someone's feeling like shit and they're feeling stuck in their head and they're really overwhelmed, and they're just like, their solution is, I just move forward, just state management, Tony Robbins style, boom, and they just go for it. But what's needed in that moment is to actually receive instead of giving, and feminine instead of masculine. And they're taking action. They're taking action. They're like, how do I get back into that state of not feeling so fucking stuck? And how do I, move forward properly? I'm feeling really disempowered. And they take action. But what was needed was to receive. Then they're not going to be feeling fucking good. They're going to have a headache. They might get sick. It's because it's not what was needed, discernible in alignment with the person who was feeling stuck. But on the same token, if the person's like, my solution is, this is what I was doing for a big, okay, I'm feeling stuck. So what I need to do right now is, there's obviously some kind of stuck energy here or some emotion. I'm just going to feel into it. I'm going to regulate my nervous system, which is like psychology and somatic release work and stuff. I'm going to like tune in. I'm going to bring myself back into homeostasis by down regulating, because I was in hyper arousal. I'm going to bring myself back into homeostasis, into my window of tolerance. My nervous system's going to be feeling good. and I'll nurture myself. Ryan, I love you so much. You're doing such a great job, man. Just chill out. The inner feminine. But if what's needed, it's like you put off the fucking podcast for 3 months. The inner masculine's needed. The inner father's like, dude, step the fuck up and do the thing. And if you keep nurturing yourself through it, like I've done at certain times, and I'm sure we all have, it's like, then you're not going to feel fulfilled. The consistent quality of the experience of your life is going to be low, even though you're being courageous and taking action. So courage to me is not like, do the big thing. It's do the thing that's needed in the moment and be discernible about what's actually required. And most people have complete blind spots over the options in those times because they've got strengths and weaknesses based on their trauma. So if someone's like in a really, like if someone just can't relax because their whole self-worth, like me in the past, was attached to their outcomes in business, you might need to do some kind of breakthrough. You can't even see it as an option. You need to do some kind of exploring, excavating, an emotional release or something. No, this is not even a possibility. Or relaxing might not even be a possibility. It's like relaxation means I'm weak, which means I'm a failure, which means that it's just not a possibility. So it's like being able to discern the options and hold yourself with absolute love throughout whatever you choose to do. If I'm feeling sick, like yesterday I watched a bunch of TV because I've been hustling fucking hard and I was feeling tired as fuck. So I was like, okay. It took fucking courage, man, for me to receive and chill out. It took courage. Is going against that my head's kind of like patterning of being like, you got to work, get your shit done. And so courage to me is not just the big thing of like doing the scary action. It's doing the scary action, which could be to lean more into the feminine. It could be doing the breakthrough, or it could be taking action. And everyone's going to have different edges and different relevant, correct, aligned next actions to move them back to the heart at the time. So the core method for me is about discerning what's needed to get back to the heart, which is ultimately how we live our most fulfilled life in the moment, knowing it's always going to change.
Wow. yeah.
You see where it's come from? Like with all these different things? Like,
yeah, man.
I've just done so much exploration over the last few years, and this just makes it very easy. What's needed? 1, 2, 3, that, boom. Back in the heart, living with fulfillment.
That's a game changer for so many people in the coaching space, in the business space, in parenting or whatever. I can see it in fitness. I can see it in people who feel like they need to train every day because taking a day off is weakness, or, freaking parents who won't ask for help because that means they're not good at parenting. But then also people on the flip side who spend so much time making themselves feel good before they do anything that nothing ever happens. You actually said this to me once. I was at one of your retreats after it was like in the weeks after I got married, and up towards my wedding, my stress levels went up and my business performance went down. I started getting hung up on the phone, that kind of thing. And I was in a pretty bad financial place in the weeks after the wedding.
Yeah.
And you were talking to me about it. I was like, man, I think I just need to like literally get myself feeling back on track and then go and, start making some sales after that. You were like, no, man, you need to man the fuck up and start doing it now. You're married, fix it now. You'll feel better because you fixed it. And that was huge for me. And then I went and made a bunch of sales and paid for the whole honeymoon. And
that's fucking awesome, dude.
It was grass. It was great. I pulled in a bunch of the wrong people, and a bunch of them ended up being terrible clients and whatever, because I didn't disqualify them, and then it caused a whole lot of stress later on. But getting on a plane to Germany for 2 months, knowing that I had a few $1,000s coming in every week, for the first month of my honeymoon, was epic.
Yeah.
And it was because you recognized that it was taking action. That was the courageous thing for me to do. But
yes.
there's plenty.
That was the main thing that I would say to people at that phase. Just happened to be what's needed for them. But I only had one option at that point, not the other two.
That was
even the mindset stuff was just like, I was completely against anything that just seemed like a detour from action, which a lot of it did.
Yeah, well, we started to see you learning about Vedic meditation and stuff coming into the end of my days working with you at Winnie International, and you kind of got us onto that One Giant Mind app, and we all learned to do 10-minute meditations, and that was helpful. That was really, really helpful for me because it showed I think it was a good, entry point for a lot of people into combining the two worlds of tangible action and internal work, which is the eternal struggle, right? Of running a coaching business where there's so many voices, like you said, telling you the only way to succeed is through my method, my thing. And it's really cool that you created your method to work on yourself, not to sell, not to sell a magic
and
pill.
this core method, like, I just want people to be able to use it for free, because there's no like I created the idea of having like an internal breakthrough or taking action or enjoying your life. It's just like, it's fucking simple. So use it, and you deserve to use it. But yeah, man, I think that one thing that popped up a minute ago was that you went on the honeymoon. You had to take action to get to that point. Some of the clients weren't right. You weren't really sure which ones were right or not. There's this big shit show, and it's kind of like messy in the early days of building a business, period. But as a coach, a really easy way to just like mitigate most of the problems that come up is just be in it for life. Like, just commit for the real long term. It's like 5-10 years. Like, I've been in the space for about 10 years. I've been into personal development for 14 years, but I've been in a coach for like 10 years. So it's like, but I plan on just continuing to grow, and it just gets so much easier. You know, that idea of like, to those that have little, everything that is taken, and those that have much, everything is given. You know that? Jordan Peterson talks about it a lot. It's true, right? So it's like, at the start of being a coach, no one really wants to work with you because you suck and you're new and you got no case studies, and you're probably in your embodiment's low. You don't have much practice up your sleeve. So it's like, it's the hardest time to get results. But then like, if you're in a position like where I'm in, and I've been doing it for 10 years, then I can make 500K a year just doing some one-to-one coaching and working hard, but not ridiculously hard. And because I've spent so much time, I've spent over $750,000 on my growth, like on courses and mentors and stuff. And I've practiced heaps, and I've been in it for 10 years consistently. So it's like, and that's just going to get better over time, because you just become more and more of a master at helping people get what they want, which is very valuable. So it's like, if you just stick at it for life and you just keep pressing into your edge in terms of like improving your coaching skills, practicing so learning more about coaching, practicing more about coaching, and like becoming a more embodied, fulfilled being. Like, I'm always leaning into new edges. Like, I had Tantra on my to-do list for like 3 years, just parked, just don't have the space for it now. And then 2 years ago, I was like, boom, I'm going deep into that stuff. And now I'm like, know about Tantra inside out. It's just an extra thing to the repertoire. Or it's like working on my bloods and my gut health and stuff like this. I knew I wanted to do that for so long, but about a year ago, I really got into it. It's like sharpened my nutrition massively. Mobility and like working on my posture and the way that impacts me. It's just something I wanted to do for ages. And I've only been working on that over the last 3-6 months. So it's like, I'm always have these like new things that I'm wanting to like add in to my map of coaching. And like, you just get to keep improving over time. And if you're in it for the long term, then you get to just become a better coach. The rewards get better. Your fulfillment from it gets better. There was this book called, I'm pretty sure it was Work Rules. I'm pretty sure that's the book, but it might not be. But anyway, the concept of this book was like, the number one thing that caused fulfillment in a certain job wasn't like, they were trying to find what industries were the most popular, and they like created the most fulfillment. And they didn't find like a particular industry. They just found that people that were doing what they did for the longest had the most fulfillment. And that's because they become good at it. They get a lot of connection because people know them. And so people want to connect with them at their work. They get paid more. They have more mentoring opportunities. They get to keep learning and developing because they're just stuck at it. And that's the same if someone's an accountant, or someone's a veterinarian, or someone's a doctor, or someone's a lawyer, or someone's like working with children, someone's a coach. It's just about sticking at it. So if you really want to be a coach, which I can tell you from being in it for 10 years, it's a pretty cool space. It's not going to guarantee you fulfillment, but it's a pretty big factor. So it's like, stick at it and commit for the long term. And that'll allow you to give yourself grace in the short term while you're building. which is going to be needed because the building phase is hard.
It is hard. And you said that to us very early on in my journey, right when I needed to hear it. It was like, if you want to eliminate short-term stress, just realize you're in this for life. And
Yes.
definitely changed the game for me. And I'm not ironically in that same job, but I'm in a similar, it's led me into what I'm doing now. Very beautiful.
Were you ever meant to be? Did you ever feel like being a coach was your calling though? You more came in as an opportunity to create like a better life for you and
yeah.
And
you guys created that career for me. I never even thought of it.
Exactly.
You know, so but it's led me to the coaching space. And now I think my favorite part of it was always content creation, creativity. And that's pretty much my job now. And so it's worked out perfectly, man. And I couldn't thank you enough.
Totally. But for those and I appreciate that, but for those that are listening that know that they want to actually be a coach, these are the guys that I'm talking to. And those that don't know what they want to be, just like leaning into the thing that you do feel called towards. But just the long-term commitment just makes such a big difference. Such a big fucking difference.
Yeah, it does, man. And you are proof, you're living proof, Ryan. And I couldn't think of a better place to leave it today. Although I'd love to talk to you for 3 hours straight. I've got to get into my hustle season, man. I've got to go and land a client in 5 minutes time. So, dude, thank you so much, Ryan, for making some time. I know it's evening in Costa Rica. I'm glad your power has stayed on for the whole podcast. We were worried about that at the beginning. And, dude, one day we will hug again. We will go for some steak again. Don't know when or where, but it's going to happen.
Sounds amazing, brother. Dude, thanks so much for having me on. As I said, I reached out because you just popped up. I was like, oh, there's Alex is doing a podcast. I should jump on that. I'd love to chat with you, brother. And I really enjoyed our chat. Thank you so much. And to those that are listening, I love you guys so much. If you're a coach, you're out there doing your thing, I've got so much respect for you. And I just want to remind you that like the most important thing in this whole journey is holding yourself with conviction through the whole fucking process. If you choose to like do some extra development on yourself to improve your coaching, honor that. If you choose to up your prices, fucking honor that. If you choose to put in more of the work to like get your coaching skills going because you're practicing heaps and you're making less money than what your friends are, fucking honor yourself for that. And if you want to go the other way and you want to make heaps of money and you spend less on the actual developing of your capacity, honor yourself for that. But it's so important to be able to hold yourself with reverence, which means like sacredness and self-worth, with worth through everything that you go through, and just know yourself. Take time to tune into yourself and go, what the fuck am I actually doing this for? Who am I? Where am I going? I know who I am. And just know that there's zero difference between anyone in the space. There's no difference between Alex, myself, you, Tony Robbins, anyone. We're all made equal. If you want to be a master in this space, it's just going to take to those three things that I spoke about, which is like learning about coaching, practicing coaching, and working on your own embodiment. And you're going to be a master coach. So rock it out. Thanks so much for having me on, Alex. Love you, brother, and appreciate you so much.
Thank you, Ryan. And thank you for that insanely good closeout to the podcast. That's going to be a clip that will ring through the ears of beginner coaches for many years to come, I'm sure. Thank you, man. Love you to bits.
Welcome,
and anyone watching or listening live or otherwise, I'll actually be back tomorrow with another episode of Coaches to the Moon. In the meantime,
and also those that are on here, add me on Instagram at the Ryan Magic and shoot me a message if you tuned in and listen to the podcast. I'd love to hear from you at the Ryan Magic on Insta.
Yeah, we're going to tag you everywhere, man. Everywhere. We're going to make sure people come towards you. We're going to tag you. We're going to send you a bunch of clips you can post around, and we're going to make sure
that's great, man.
Everyone knows that you are the man, as I'm sure they can tell from this podcast.
Appreciate that, Alex. Lots of love, brother.
Thanks for listening,
everyone. See everyone.
Love.